Welcome to video lesson 9.3 on solving quadratic equations by completing the square. So in this section, we are going to still be solving quadratic equations. However, we're not going to be graphing, we're not going to be using square roots, but we're going to be completing the square in order to solve them. All right, so this is just another method to solve the quadratic equations. Okay. What we're going to do is add a constant c to the expression that should be x squared plus bx, so that x squared plus bx is plus c is a perfect square. So this should be, mx squared as well as this. Sorry, that got changed. All right, and in order to complete a square, okay, what you need to do is first find half of b. So you find 1/2 of b, which is the coefficient of x, okay? Then you'll square that, okay? So if b was 4, half of 4 is 2, and 2 squared is 4, and then we'll add 4 to x squared plus bx plus 4, and then we'll write that as the square of a binomial, okay? Which would be whatever our b value ends up being will be our last factor here. So it'll be x plus whatever b divided by 2 is squared. That will be our solution. Okay? All right, so keeping that in mind, our first step when we're trying to complete this square, okay, is to find half of b. Okay? So find 1/2 of b. So b equals 6, and half of 6 is 3. All right. Now step 2 is to square. Okay. 3 squared is 9. Okay. And now step 3, we're going to add 9 to x squared plus 6x. So we'll have x squared plus 6x plus 9, okay? So this is the result, okay? Now what we need to do is just factor that. And what that is going to be, okay, is it's going to be x plus 3 squared. Okay, so they give you steps 2 and step 3 so that you understand how you're getting the factors, okay? But technically, once you find step 1, it will be the binomial then x plus your value in step 1 squared will give you the completing the square for that, okay? Now, for part B, okay? Again, step 1 is to find half of b. Okay. Now b here is -9. So half of -9, we're just going to keep it as 9/2. Okay. It's just easier to keep it as an improper fraction in this case. Now when we square that, okay, we're going to get -81/4. Okay. Now we'll add that to the original one. So we'll have x squared minus 9x minus 81/4. And then when we factor that out, we get x minus 9/2 squared. Okay, and again, that was a 9/2. Okay, that's a little 2 down there, which is really hard to see. Try to extend the page for you. So that's a 2 9/2. Okay, so x minus 9/2 squared. All right. Now, what we need to do, okay, is just now actually solve. Because in that first part, we completed the square, we got the binomial, but we didn't actually finish finding the solution. All right. Here, we're going to actually be completing the square. So the first thing we want to do is make sure we get it into this form. X squared plus bx equals some number. Okay, so here we have x squared plus 8x minus 3 equals 17. So we want to move this minus 3 over so that we have it in this form of x squared plus bx equals d. Okay. Now, our first step is to actually complete the square. So we have to do those 3 steps. We're going to find half of b. So 1/2 of 8 equals 4. Okay. Therefore, we are going to be factoring out 8x squared plus 8x plus 4 squared is 16, okay? And when we factor that, okay, it's going to be x plus 4 squared, and that's going to equal 20, okay? Now hang on a second, sorry. So, when we do that, slow down, kind of rewind a little bit. Okay, so step 1 is just doing that part. Now step 2, we need to square that. So 4 squared equals 16. And now step 3, we're adding that to each side. So we have x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 20 plus 16. Okay, I have to remember to add that to each side because I actually have a value on the other side now, whereas I didn't before. Okay, so this is factoring out this part into x plus 4 squared. That's how we completed the square. And 20 plus 16 is 36. Now to solve, I can use what we were doing in today's lesson, or in the previous 9-2 lesson, and take the square root of each side. Then I'll have x plus 4 equals plus or minus 6. Okay. So to solve that, if x is positive 6 and I subtract 4, x will be 2. If x was negative 6 and I subtract 4, x will be negative 10. Okay, so my 2 solutions are 2 and negative 10. Right, and example 3, now I kind of try to incorporate the picture here. It says you're throwing a stone from a height of 16 feet with an upward velocity of 32 feet per second. Okay, the function h equals negative 16t squared plus 32t plus 16 is giving us the height h of the stone after t seconds. We want to know, when does a stone land in the water? So when the height is 0 is when the stone's going to land in water. So height equals 0 equals stone in water. Okay. So we're going to solve this for 0 equals negative 16. T squared plus 32t plus 16. Now what we're going to do is divide each side by negative 16. Okay, because we need the coefficient of this t squared to be 1. Okay, so that's still going to be 0. T squared plus negative 2t plus negative 1. Okay, now we need to add 1 to each side. So 1 equals t squared plus negative 2t. Now we have that in the form that we want. Okay, so now we have to complete the square. All right, so half of negative 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is just 1. So we have to add 1 to each side. So that's how we're going to complete the square. So we have 2 equals negative 1 squared plus negative 2t plus 1. Now when we do that, we're factoring this out to t minus 1 squared. So 2 equals t minus 1 squared. Take the square root, so t equals plus or minus the square root of 2. Or sorry, not t equals, but rather t minus 1, sorry, equals plus or minus the square root of 2. Now if we add 1, so we have 1 plus or minus the square root of 2 is what t is. Okay, so t is approximately, when we add it to the square root of 2, is going to be 2.4 seconds. And it could also be, when we subtract it, it would be negative 0.4. Well, we know time is not going to be negative, so we don't have to worry about that one. So it will hit the water approximately 2.4 seconds after we throw it. Okay? If you have questions, please make sure you ask them, write them down so you remember, and I'll be happy to go over them in our next class. Please complete these 6 practice problems and write down any questions you have. Have a great night. Thank you.